Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the never too late edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. I had this one from yesterday, March 27, 2024. It's Wednesday, and that's when I usually drop these, so I just kept the date the same. Today is the 28th, by the way, so we are kind of like on the, beyond halfway point of the 28th. Sometime in the evening hour. So, a lot of you will be getting this here in the evening, and you can spend a little time to kind of peruse some of the really cool errors and varieties that folks like you and I have come across and have sold on eBay. Rest assured, 2024 is shaping up to be another banner year when it comes to finding some of these coins, and the prices have been phenomenal. One thing that I have noticed is that there are a lot more variety of different things that people are finding. There are some really cool cherry pickers guide varieties that I haven't seen in quite a while that are making their way onto the list. We have one really big one here this week, and I gotta tell you, I was more than a little shocked based off of the condition of this coin. Boy, man, it's a firecracker, and it just goes to show you that a coin doesn't have to be fresh made as of yesterday to have the most amount of value. There are a number of varieties and errors that have just innate value, regardless of what the condition is. So, if you think your coin's too rough or rugged or ugly, to be worth anything substantial to a collector, you might want to change your line of thought. The game's changed, and when there's very little supply of something but more demand for it, it's not going to matter what the condition's going to be. So keep that in mind. Which leads me to my next point, okay? We don't ever talk about graded coins, okay? And that's something that's been a constant every week. Gradeflation, grading, paying money to have a coin encapsulated, just so it gives you kind of like that warm and fuzzy feeling in your tummy, thinking that your coin is going to be worth 2 times, 10 times the amount of value is certainly not the case. Some of your biggest varieties, like the 55 double the Diaverus Lincoln set, have been traded and sold quite often on eBay raw. And I know it's one of those coins that you really need to know and be careful of what you're looking for. But if you know all the die markers to differentiate one that is widely counterfeited to one that is quite real and legit, then you're going to be in good shape. And that's going to be kind of like one of those areas of opportunity where you can pick up something, something unique, something very popular today, and be proud of your purchase without having to pay the premium or, any sort of premium, if there's any, for a graded coin. So no graded coins. Keep the money in your pocket. Take good pictures. Throw them up on eBay. Do the song and dance, kind of like what a lot of us do to make that extra money at the end of the day. And other thing that I wanted to bring up is that in this video, we are going to be taking a look at the all original photos that these listers have. We don't juice or doctor any of the photos to make them look better. You are simply going to get the best and the worst that these sellers have to offer. And good news, that bar is set really low. So if you think you're struggling or you're having issues taking photos of your coins, stay tuned. You're going to see where that bar is set. It'll make things a little bit easier for you. All right, so we normally have a little bit of a whatnot calendar of events. So we did have 2 sales slated for this week. We had our Tuesday show on the 26th. That one went without a hitch. But we also have tomorrow night our Friday show. This is kind of like our end of month deal here. This is what we call the spring cleaning auction event. Lots of $1 starts on everything. Some pretty big coins that we are going to see, and possibly some big deals that you guys could take advantage of. Nothing is going to be held back here. All right, so that's Friday, March 29th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, wherever you may be in between as well. Central Time, Mountain Time, you guys know where you fall. But if you're going to be a brand new participant to the platform Whatnot, come by, check things out, sign up, use my referral link down below in the description box. Get yourself $15 in store credit that you can use right away, courtesy of your boy Blue. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into these things here. Let's see what's sold here on eBay within the last 24 to 36 hours. Starting with, I would say, one of the linchpins of just modern roll hunting, the 1998 Lincoln Memorial Set. This one is the what they call the wide AM reverse. And you can find these on 3 different dates. 99 and 2000 are the other two. So on these particular coins, the U.S. Mint employees inadvertently used the reverse dies for proof strikes to strike some of their business strikes. So they have a little bit of a design difference, and it's really in the lettering on the reverse. And what you're going to look for is that big gap between the A&M and America. All right, normal coins will have the A&M touching at the base. So this is a good one here. These are quite common, but they represent a little bit of value, which is always welcome. This particular example ended up selling for $9. I've seen them sell for around $5 to $10 pretty regularly. The one that you're going to be on the lookout for is going to be that 99. That's the rare one out of the 3. And those, in the same condition that you see as 98, will still be like a $40 to $50 coin. So there's a lot of value to be found here, and they are quite common. I'm on the West Coast, and I'm still finding these on the regular. So, they are out there for the taking. The next one that we have here is one that we've seen on a number of occasions, and it still has some life left in it. It's the 2022 Lincoln Shield Set. If you look on the front of the coin, right in front of Lincoln's eyes, it looks like it's shooting out some lasers or smoke or something, maybe a fireball. This is actually a field-restricted strike-through. Now, what in the heck is that? What does that mean? That is actually a type of strike-through where there is some sort of grease or debris on the obverse die. And for it to have this look, the feeder finger, which helps set the coin in place, or the blank in place before the strike, the feeder finger will actually have made contact to the obverse face of that die, thereby shifting some of that grease and debris and even making some contact, little scrapes on the face of that die. All right, and then sometimes that can be translated as little parallel lines on the fields of the coin. So this one right here, very well known. There's a number of different types that we've seen of this, both large and small. This one right here is still a really solid sale 2 years later at $24.30. So keep an eye out on this. Believe it or not, it's worth a $20 bill plus. And some people just don't know that kind of value exists on something that, we all might consider to be damage. It's a really easy mistake to make. The next one that we have here, this is one of our crappy photo listings. This is actually a 1956D Lincoln wheat set. Now, the coin in the picture is a lot smaller, so we had to crop it and blow it up a little bit and made them both together. So this is kind of like one of those things that we expect out there. The pictures, the coin was taken through a 2x2 flip. You guys know me. Take the coin out of the packaging so that way you can get better, crisper photos. So there is a number of various nice repunch mint marks. Now keep in mind, prior to 1990, mint employees were tapping into mint marks on the working dies. All right, so there's a lot of room for error here with these. And it's become one of the more collectible U.S. Mint varieties out there. So this particular die variety is the FS501. You can see the secondary Denver Mint mark that has been punched west of the primary. This is a very sharp one. Also, probably, I consider this an R1 on the rarity scale, which is quite common. These show up all over the place. I go through wheat cent bags on occasion and find quite a few of these. So this particular one ended up selling for $15.55. It is a sale. The pictures, they are what they are. And there you go. That's, one that if you're able to take better photos than this particular listing, then you might have a leg up on the competition. The next one that we have here, occasionally we'll throw in some nice classical coins, that makes sense. 1843 seated Liberty half dime. This thing is about as small as, maybe one of your fingernails. If you're a man like me, it's probably a lot smaller than your thumbnail. And that's why these have the distinction of being called fish scales. They're not small. Now, this particular one right here is a good, what they consider to be a type coin, right? It's one that's used in type. If someone was collecting one of each design of every denomination, this one would be a necessity. But as far as the error or variety on this coin, it's actually just the number of die cracks that exist on the reverse. Almost like a type of shattered die. You can see some of the cracks going through the words half and dime in the middle of the coin. Now, please do keep in mind, this is a completely different era of coin production. So things like this are actually more common than what we're seeing today. And because of that, I probably wouldn't put a whole lot more credence in the actual value of these type of errors, especially of this age. So keep that in mind. If you find one like at a coin shop and they're already asking a premium because it's a good type coin, you might want to reconsider buying it and just adding something to your collection that makes sense. This particular one sold for $92.99. And, a lot of it has nothing to do with the die cracks that mint error on the reverse, but more so in the case that it's a really decent looking VF quality type coin. The next one that we have here, 1999. This one right here is an out-of-collar broad-struck Lincoln cent. So the collar is what normally holds the coin in place during the process of that strike. If it's malfunctioned or it's not sitting or seated properly, then that's going to lead to some pretty wild and unimaginable type of things like this here. So this coin that you see here is probably close to being about the size of a standard U.S. nickel. The metal flow just simply goes outwards. If there's no collar to hold the coin in place, that extra metal flow will just continue to go outwards. So this is one of the more common dates of broad strikes and off-center strikes. This one ended up selling for $33.45, which is a little bit higher on the spectrum for this particular date, as we do see more of these in 99 to 2001. The next one that we have here, again, more interesting stuff. This is stuff that we don't see that often, but this is, or was, a 3-cent nickel. Hard to believe that they made a 3-cent denomination U.S. coin, but they did back in the 1860s, 1850s. They made silver versions of that called trimes. Now, in this particular case, this is the nickel version. As you can see the Roman numeral 3 with the wreath on the reverse. But what in the world happened on the other side? And it's real simple. This was a defective planchet. The planchet had actually split after the strike. So there's another half somewhere out in the world, or maybe not. Maybe it was destroyed. That ended up splitting apart from this one that has the actual obverse design with Lady Liberty and the date. So this was probably at one point what they call a clamshell lamination, where it's split on its edge. It could have been helped along, but this one looked like it happened a long time ago with the recirculation of that obverse face there. This one right here ended up selling for $84. This is an error that we don't see come up too often, especially on this oddball denomination. The next one that we have here, we do cover paper money on this show. We have this 2001 $1 bill. Be on the lookout. These things are wildly cool. This one right here actually shows a very grossly misaligned overprint. Now, the overprint entails all of the green ink that you see, along with the black district seal and those quad corner 3s that you see on there. Everything shifted to the left. You have some pretty nice overlapping of the overprint to the base print of this note. Again, this is something that a lot of people tend to overlook and they don't really think too much about. When we look at the reverse, perfectly centered. It's got great margins. It's a very clean note. This particular example sold for $34.88, and that's with 18 bids. This thing was bid up to this amount of money. Here's another one here. Another very nice Lincoln Memorial cent. Right in that kind of like the heart of the more common dates. 98 to 2001, we see a lot of broad strikes and off-center strikes. They normally traveled in the mint zone bags that were coming from the Fed Reserve Bank. 1998, this one's off-center by about 40%. This is an incredibly attractive coin. In very nice shape, too, considering that it is a copper-coated zinc. A lot of things can go wrong here. This example sold for $45.99, and that's with 14 cumulative bids to get up to that amount. So there is a lot of bidding activity on this one. All right, so again, not the best photos, but the most important stuff actually had a lot of clarity to it. This is a 2004 Denver, Wisconsin statehood quarter. And there are a couple of really well-known what they call leaf variants. And they can be found on that corn on the cob area on the reverse right above the cheese wheel. This one is what they call the low leaf variant. It has an extra leaf that sits lower right above the cheese wheel there on the left side. That's not supposed to be there. This is, a lot of people would say that this was an intentionally made occurrence. A mint employee just simply engraved a couple extra lines on that working die to produce this. And this one right here actually was dumped in the south central region of the United States. So Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, this particular region had a bounty of these that were being found. Hard to believe, 20 years ago. This is a 20-year-old coin, ladies and gentlemen. So these are still quite collected today. Very popular. This particular example sold for $96.45 with 17 total bids. It seems to me that these things continue to inch upward in value. It used to be that you could have grabbed one of these for about $50-$60 about 5 years ago. And, there's not a whole lot of them that you can find for that price these days. And the same seller also had what they call a high leaf variant. Now, again, these are not the best photos, nor did he or she take close-ups of the event here. But if you know what you're looking for and you know these type of varieties, then you're in good shape here. This particular one is also a Denver minted 2004. Again, an intentionally made variety where they did engrave an extra line there in that same spot. This particular one is a little bit more scarce and more valuable. This one did sell for $108.95, and that's with 21 total bids on this one. And probably one of the most stunning Susan B. Anthony's that I've laid eyes on in years. And that says a lot. There's not a whole lot to look for on this particular coin. It was one of the more disliked coins, based off of its size. It was too much like the size of a standard U.S. quarter. This is a 1979D Susan B. Anthony that features... some pretty wild die clashing. If you look at the reverse right there, and that's why the reverse is upside down, because you could see the clashing of Susan B. Anthony on that reverse die. You can actually see her nose and her mouth there just to the left of the eagle's wings. This is quite strong. This is actually one of the strongest clashings that I've ever seen on this particular coin. And it's not even close. So this one right here, I was not at all surprised to find out that this ended up selling in a buy it now listing for $111.99. And guess what? It's worth every single penny of that. And for those of you that believe that that's not worth it, it's all about the rarity, folks. Even modern coins have a rarity about them. And if there's just not any of them for to help appease the error collector's market, then, people are going to pay a rich amount of money just to obtain, a rather unique event here. Here's a 2000p Roosevelt dime. It's hard to believe that this is a dime, but it is off-center by roughly 80%. This is a wild one, and from what we've seen here recently in the marketplace, Roosevelt dime errors have all of a sudden, kind of exploded. There's a couple new collectors out there that's injecting money into Roosevelt dime errors. This one right here is sold for $33.55. A very attractive coin, and these are collected by date. So folks are looking for every single date as an off-center coin. Always helps if there's a full date and a mint mark. Here's a 1944 Lincoln wheat cent. This one is off-center by about 10%. The older you get on these type of errors, of course, the more equitable they'll be for any collector that's looking to sell it. This one's actually in really nice shape. It has loads of mint luster and lots of red in there. This particular one sold for $129, which is a pretty substantial premium on this coin, as the last recorded 1944 off-center strike, I believe, sold for around $50. So again, condition is everything. Even with error coins, condition is a little bit less important, but to get over that hump of a premium, one that looks like this, it's important, and people do pay up for such examples. This one right here, it was miscategorized as a retained cut, and it's easy to see why. This is a 1913 Buffalo nickel. It's the Type 2 reverse, so it shows the buffalo on a flat mound on the reverse. But if you look on the obverse there next to Liberty, it really does kind of look like a retained cut where the die had actually split, but hadn't quite completely fallen out. But when you look at the reverse, you do notice some lamination issues as well. So, when you look at, the obverse and reverse, you can kind of make the assumption that that is not a retained cut, but it's in lamination. Laminations seem to plague the Buffalo Nickel series, and then going into the Jeffersons. So this one right here, actually, it was a pretty okay sale at $32.99. I'm sure a lot of seasoned error collectors were privy to what this is. Instead of it being a retained cut, it was actually just a couple really nice flaky lamination peels that are retained on the coins. Now here's what a full-blown cut does look like. So after the die had fractured and a piece of that die had fallen out, you're left with this pretty big empty cavity. And when it strikes the coins, all the metal flow will go into that empty cavity, thereby creating this raised blob anomaly on your coins. Now, this is a 1990D Lincoln Memorial set. Denver minted coins getting some love here all of a sudden. But you can see that raised cut anomaly there behind Lincoln's head. This is one of the bigger ones I've seen so far. This one here sold for $76.99, and that's with 6 total bids. So this one, a very powerful sale. As we all know, cuds are kings in the pricing world. These are quite valuable, and the prices are very consistent across the board. So much like that Seated Liberty half dime we saw earlier, here's another older coin and an error that we see quite often. This is an 1864 2-cent piece with rotated dies. Pretty massive rotation. The seller did a great job mating both of them together here on the same image. So the reverse die is rotated counterclockwise, I would say like 140 degrees. And, on much newer coins, this is more scarce because of the quality control. But, back in the day, this was more common place out there in the world of coinage. So this particular one right here, pretty cool to see, but it doesn't add a whole lot of ton premium. It's sold for $39.95. But quite an interesting conversation piece. And the coin overall is in really good shape. It's a good solid, I would say, VG example. A nice type coin, but nothing that's going to totally break the bank on you. Now, this is probably the pinnacle of any one of the errors that we talk about for this particular date of Lincoln cent. As you guys well know, and I had mentioned, broad strikes and off-center strikes are some of the more common types to find on these particular dates of coins. This is a wildly centered, massive broad strike. This coin, I would believe, is about the size of a standard U.S. quarter, and that says a lot. You see the double profile of Lincoln there. That's quite common on these type of errors because that plating on the coins is very, very thin. And this one right here ended up selling for $24.50. If this was on any other earlier date of this size, probably sell for 2 to 3 times that. All right, that's kind of how common 1999 is for broad strikes. And another one of my favorite varieties, this is a 1960D Lincoln Memorial Cent. This is a dual variety. This is actually a double the die and an RPM. So this is both an FS 501 and an FS 101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. When we look up close here at the date, you're going to see the small over large date, which is quite prominent here. And then you're going to see the extra punch Denver mint mark that is north of the primary, just barely touching the bottom part of the 9 that you see there. And these are highly coveted across most grades, but the ones that are in much nicer shape like this one command the most amount of money. So this example sold for $79 with 11 bids. Again, I've handled and owned a number of these, and as quickly as I get them, they sell lickety split. They're that popular. And statehood quarter errors are massive these days as collectors continue to pursue the more, pristine type of errors like this Georgia statehood. 1999 Philadelphia is the date on there. It's off-center by about 20-25%. It's massive, and it's what looks to be problem-free. A lot of these normally have like scratches on them, but this one looks great. So this particular example ended up selling for a pretty stately sum of $95.45. Again, if it was any other date from the 90s, you'd be looking at about a $25 to $30 coin. So, yeah, the statehood quarter program not only birthed a lot of new collectors, but also became kind of like a hot topic for mint errors as well. Here's a 1995 $1 bill. This is another incredible dual error. This one has not only gutter folds, like you see here on the front of this note, where the subject sheet had a couple of wrinkles in the paper that never got stretched out prior to the print. So the wrinkles got printed over, and after it's cut and sent out to the banks, you can play around with them. They're like accordions. They're kind of cool. But when we flip this bad boy over, man, look at that. We have a front to back wet ink transfer. Albeit a partial one, but damn. I mean, this thing is incredible. Gutter folds and a wet ink transfer. That's the reason why that this one ended up hammering on eBay for $232.29 with 37 bids. I would say there's probably maybe a couple of these in existence. They just don't show up. And, for the most part, they're found before they even make it into circulation. A BEP employee will hold on to this. They'll send it out for destruction. And it should have been a star note. This particular one right here is a gem in the rough. And I've been doing this for a while, this PCMR. And I've seen a total of 1 of these over the course of like 7 years of doing pocket change market reports. So that kind of tells you a lot there. Here's a 1985 $5 bill. Another nice one here, nothing to look at on the front other than just a really well-worn small head. I kind of miss these, they used to be in prominence there in the 80s and early 90s. But check out the reverse here. We got a huge solvent smear or ink smear. They're one and the same. And yeah, these made it out of the BEP quite often. And boy, when they're this large and this rich and dark and saturated, whew, man, that's incredible. This one ended up selling for $53.79 with 12 total bids. And we had this lot of 2 CUD die breaks. All right, so we have a little bit newer 1974D Lincoln cent. You can see the CUD right under the date there. And then the other coin is a 1937 Lincoln wheat cent. Now the photos are a little bit out of focus and they're quite dark. All right, so I'm thinking that this one right here, could have sold for a little bit more money based off of the photos, but check out that cud there on the wheat stalk on the right side, and that's what you're looking at. Here's the other sides of the coin. They just look like normal coins. The 1974 D, you can see the weakness on the opposite side. Right over the word States of America, that weakness there, that's normal on a cud die break. So this pairing right here seems like a steal at $56.99 with 4 bids. All right, again, this is something probably I could have sold for about $80 based off of the sizes of those cuds. Here's a 1984 P Washington quarter, another nice one here. It's off center by about 55%. Pretty decent shape as well. It's problem free. I don't see any scratches or anything like that to mention of, but again, these are collected by date, and if someone did need this, they would scoop it up pretty quickly. This particular example sold for $49.99. 84p off-center struck examples are not particularly rare. We have seen quite a few of them in the marketplace over the years. And also, 1943 Denver Lincoln Steely. Everybody's favorite one-year type. The very coin that, even to this day perplexes many. Like, why did they make a steel cent in 1943? Is it experimental planchet? Not quite. It was a last-ditch effort to ration some of those key war metals like copper and nickel. And, the mint had to pivot into something creative. So they did a zinc-coated steel composition for 1 year. And I guess that's all they needed to do. So this one right here is what looks to be a uncentered broad strike. Any sort of mint error on a steel cent is pretty big. This one right here sold for $58.80 with 13 bids. And the final coin for this week, man, I'm telling you guys, you need to be on the lookout. Some of these clad era, copper nickel clad era Washington quarters of the 1960s are mightily deceptive. There was a couple really big varieties, ladies and gentlemen. This is probably one of the bigger ones. And it's on a 1968 Denver date. Now take a look at the coin. Look at it. It's like just a solid VF, like 25 quality coin. This thing has been around the block a number of times. But no one would ever think that a few $100s would be passing hands. Every time someone got this quarter and change, and it ended up going to the Starbucks barista, and then it went to the grocery store employee, and then it went back to the bank, and then back and forth and all over the place. This coin has seen and have heard a lot of stories. You better believe it. So it took one savvy roll hunter to find what was possibly one of the biggest finds of the year for them. This is the FS801 doubled die reverse. It's one of the strongest doubled dies that you will see from the 1960s, and probably as rare too. So when we look at the reverse of the coin, check out the doubling on the words quarter and dollar on here. You can see the splits. This one is a true doubled die. It's not a machine doubling or strike doubling. This is the real deal here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the word United. And then States, probably the least impressive doubling that you'll see as far as doubling goes. But if you look at the top of the A in States, see the doubled peak pitch right there? I mean, if that doesn't tell you the whole story here, I don't know what does. This is an incredible coin. I've stared at this thing a number of times. I even thought about putting a bid in, but $335 seemed a little bit too rich for me. But in retrospect, I'm like, yep, that's the right amount of money here for this coin. And man, look at America, the doubling on here as well. This is, again, a truly remarkable variety. One of the biggest in the land. And, here we're staring at this example that's not even in a graded holder because it wouldn't have made a difference. $335, 11 total bids. There was a lot of activity here, a lot of interested parties for a coin that maybe comes up once or twice a year. That's how infrequently the FS801 68D comes up. So this is a huge chase coin. And we all have passed through these in our pocket change and in our change jars and roll hunts and all that, and we don't think any better. This is such a huge coin. All right, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for this edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. This video is for informational use only. Content provided is not financial advice. Please do collect and grade your coins responsibly. And of course, we're going to leave you with a little thank you for all of your views and support over the years. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. And I am your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. I hope to see you on the next video. Come check me out on Whatnot here tomorrow. And you guys enjoy this hobby. Keep on collecting and find your treasures. They are out there.